Okay, Merry Christmas, Joint Ops and Atlas Wealth Solution fans. So this idea for this video, I've been waiting to record this for the holidays for a long time. Every Christmas, I watch It's a Wonderful Life with my family, and my family gives me a little bit of trouble because I have several similarities with George Bailey. And every time I watch this movie, I'm always like, I wish I had George Bailey's problems. I wish I could use fractional reserve banking to maximize my investments. We're going to go through quick similarities between me and George Bailey. We're going to show a movie clip, and then we're going to show how this guy should have no problems, and even in the Depression, he should have been killing it because he is able to use fractional reserve banking. You want to say hi to everybody, Ryan?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm excited for this webinar. When Jimmy pulled me on with this idea, I'm always open to uncovering and really bringing out from behind the curtain what the banks do and how just crazy it is when you really put the numbers to it.
All right, so go ahead with the next slide.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Okay, so a first similarity for me and my family is we bought kind of an older, broken down house that we needed a rehab. So it wasn't as bad as George's. It wasn't completely abandoned, but it definitely required a lot of work. The picture on the bottom right is the...
Okay, similarity number 2 then.
So both of us have beautiful, kick-ass wives. Every time I watch this movie, George is just pissing and moaning the whole movie about how he didn't get to go travel, how he didn't get to do this. And I'm like, dude, you have a beautiful wife, you have a beautiful family. What are you complaining about? Like one of the scenes in the movies, he bitches he never got to go to Baghdad. I've been to Baghdad. It's horrible. It smells like shit there. Like he's not missing out. He needs to show a little bit of gratitude for the life he has.
Love it, man. Okay, similarity number 3, man. It doesn't end there.
No, he had 4 kids. I have 4 kids. We both work in the housing industry. We both supply working class families with clean, nice housing.
I love the picture of your kids. It looks like they are really happy to be in that portrait right there.
Oh, my wife's a photographer, so she can figure out a way to get them happy.
That's awesome. All right. Similarity number 4.
I even have a relative that could be considered the town drunk, just like George. His name was Uncle Billy. I have my brother Timmy, and not so much now. He's a respected member of society. But back in the day, he could have definitely qualified as the town drunk.
All right, man. I like it. So if you've got all the same similarities, then the purpose of this webinar, what are we looking to do? We're going to kind of show how banks work and show how you can use the system better, or what you would do if you had George Bailey's problems?
I have all of the similarities, but I can't use fractional reserve banking to collect interest off money that doesn't exist. This guy owns a building and loan, so he is able to use fractional reserve banking to collect interest off money that he doesn't have. So let's show the movie clip right now.
Okay.
Don't look now, but there's something funny going on over there at the bank, George. I've never really seen one, but that's got all the earmarks of being a run. Don't need Potter over here.
And I'll take mine now.
No, but you're thinking of this place all wrong, as if I had the money back in a safe. The money's not here. Well, your money's in Joe's house. That's right next to yours. And in the Kennedy house, and Mrs. Maitland's house, and 100 others. You're lending them the money to build, and then they're going to pay it back to you as best they can. Now, what are you going to do, foreclose on them?
Okay, so when George goes into your money's in Bob's house, and your money's in Susie's house, and I don't have it back in the vault, if I had that capability, if my private lenders had that capability, it would be gangbusters around here. But when Bob gives me money, I have to put it directly into a house. And if Bob gives me 100 grand, he really has to earn 130 grand because of taxes. So Bob gives me 100 grand, and I'm able to give him his interest. But I'm not able to create more currency like a bank does. So why don't we go through what fractional reserve banking is real quick?
Okay, so this right here, man, when I first really unearthed this, and if you haven't read a book, if you want to read a book that will just blow your socks off on how insidious this is, read The Creature from Jekyll Island. And we're going to just put a couple numbers to fractional reserve banking in the Federal Reserve. But there's 3 rules of banking, and we're going to identify how banks work. So the first rule of banking, number 1, is cash flow. The banking business is operated based on us, you and I, and the other Americans putting cash into the bank, right? So we take our deposits and we put it into the bank. Now, Jimmy, you mentioned, and in the clip that we just watched, we saw what the banks do. They don't write your name on a Post-it note and say, hey, this is Jimmy's money, and let's put it in the vault for when he comes back. I mean, they're out there using fractional reserve banking. And why don't you tell everyone what that is for people?
Okay, so put up $1,000.
Okay.
So I deposited $1,000. The bank has to put 100 aside in their reserve, their tier 1 reserve, but the other 900 they get to go lend out. Now, even though they've told me I have a cash on demand deposit that I can walk in and get my $1,000 back, it's not really true.
Okay. So cash on
They'll
demand.
give me $1,000 back when there's not a run, and that's part of in the movie. There's a run, and everybody wants their cash on demand deposit.
You got it. So it kind of destroys this illusion and this facade that our money is really safe. If they can take 10 to 1, if you give them $1,000 and they can turn around and lend 10 to 1, our money's not safe. If you, me, and 10 other people go to the bank and try to get our money back, it's going to get a little bit tight. And in fact, I was at a bank not too long ago, and this is current time. I was at a bank not too long ago trying to pull cash out, and it was on a Saturday, and they wouldn't let me pull more than $3,000 of cash out of my bank on a Saturday.
Yeah. I've heard it's as small as like $3,000 to $5,000 that they have on hand.
You got it. So the other...
That's fine if they were going to do that. When they call it a CD, you know your money's locked up for 2 years, but they're presenting this illusion that it's a cash on demand deposit.
You got it. You got it. So the other facade that they kind of tell us, and this is not so true today, but before, we used to feel like we would earn a little bit of a rate of return on there. So we're going to put some numbers to this. Let's just say that the bank is willing to pay 1%. We know they're not, but just to make the math simple, let's say they're willing to pay 1%. The second rule of banking then is once this money comes in, they use a concept of leverage. And leverage is the most powerful tool that can be used in finance, and most people forget that, or most people don't use leverage. But this is what banks' entire business model is predicated on. So they're going to take that $1,000 and they're going to multiply that and then go loan this on boats, on cars, on businesses, on homes, whatever it might be. They're going to loan that money out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do just a quick number on this, because the let's say that the bank, just to make these numbers simple, then we'll bring it a little bit more down to what it is today. Let's say the bank was able to make 10%, right? They're paying us 1% and they're able to make 10%. On the surface...
Or no, you know what? Just keep the number what it is right now, 4.5.
4.5, okay.
Let's show how crazy it is.
Okay, so on the surface, that looks like the bank is making 3.5%, right?
Right.
4.5 minus 1%. So we're going to pull up a truth concepts calculator. These are awesome calculators. The reason they're named truth concepts is the creator of these. You can use these concepts to prove the validity or the truth of anything you want to prove. So let's do this.
Todd Langford has a bunch of content out there that kind of shows this concept.
Yeah, you got
But
it.
he doesn't tie it into A Wonderful Life during the Christmas season.
You got it. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to load up. If the bank is paying 1% on a deposit, and let's actually change this. If we're going to go realistic, let's just say 0.5%. So if the bank's paying 0.5%, you have your money in the bank, and they go out and they lend it at 4.5%, that's an 800% difference, an 800% rate of return. And that's the whole concept of leverage and arbitrage. They're able to take our money, the depositor's money, and pay a small return for the facade of liquidity and safety, and then go out and leverage, multiply, turn that money into something else, and get an 800% difference on that. So let's actually put numbers to
This would all be
that.
great if it wasn't a cash-on-demand deposit.
Yeah,
The depositors under the illusion that they can get that money back.
you got it. You got it. So let's put some actual math to that, or just an actual example. So let's say your lenders, when they lend with you, they lend in increments usually of $50,000, give or take, right?
Right. Yep.
So if $50,000 earning 0.05%, oops, that's
Well, and my lenders, they earn 7 to 8%. So go ahead and put it at 8%.
okay. That's okay. That's what your lenders are earning. $50,000 at 8% over 1 year. So $4,000 interest rate there. Yeah.
Right. And it's taxed.
And it's taxed. All right. So your
500.
Yeah. There we go. Your lenders.
$500,000 or $50,000.
$50,000 are your lenders. You give them an 8% rate of return over a year period of time. They earn $4,000, right?
So what happens if that private lender was to put it into a bank? What could the bank do with the 40?
Exactly. So let's check that out.
With the 40,000.
Okay. So if they put that money in the bank instead, let's see how the private lending works, or the money would work in a bank. That $50,000 deposit, if they put that in the banks get to use fractional reserve lending, and they get to have a multiplier effect. They get to literally create money out of thin air. So they get to, most banks, and some are a little bit different, but most banks can take 90% of the deposit and then loan that out. So 90% of $50,000 is $450. So right there, if you don't see the funny money and the craziness about this, they just turned $50,000 into $450.
Right. They just create it out of thin air, and it's backed by the lender of last resort, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
And the way the lender of last resort backs it is they just create more money out of thin air if there ever was a national run on every bank.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, if anyone ever thinks that the FDIC can stand behind bank depositors, if there was a run on the bank, that is not true. I mean, go to some of the recent examples in Greece.
Google it. They're like they can support 1% of the liability.
You got it.
They're completely insolvent.
Okay, so let's say the bank turns this $450,000 loan or newfound money into 4.5% loans. Over 1 year, they make $20,250. I mean, technically, they made a lot more than that, but $20,250 in actual profits, right? So
yeah, they made 5 times what I can do for my private lender.
You got it. And let's just show again, using these interest rates. Let's show how crazy this is, right? Your private lender. In the example up here, they had $4,000. The bank, what they get to do is they get to turn that into a $20,250 profit. It's a 400% difference between what you can give people and what a bank can do with the simple principle of fractional reserve lending and leverage. And what the bank is leveraging is they're leveraging hollow promises, right? They're leveraging the fact that your money's liquid and safe, when we just can prove mathematically that it's not. They're creating money out of thin air.
And we haven't even talked about Dodd-Frank and bail-ins.
Yeah.
So Google that.
Last rule of banking is they want to do this over and over. As soon as a car loan is paid off and the money comes back, they want to get that money back out and working. If you can use fractional reserve banking and create money out of thin air, your business model is to leverage that all day long.
And the velocity is they want to do this with every depositor, with every lender, over and over and over again.
You got it.
Perpetuating the myths, it's a cash-on-demand deposit, and that the Federal Reserve can back them.
So if you had George Bailey's problems...
I'd be killing it. I'm doing okay right now. But if I could use fractional reserve banking, I would... Even in the Depression, I don't understand how we couldn't make money. Only Hollywood create a character like this.
Yeah. And how was it then in 2009, after the banks had a monumental meltdown and failure and had so many illiquid assets on their books and non-performing assets on their books, that we came in as American taxpayers and bailed them out after they had run the biggest Ponzi scheme right in front of all of our eyes?
I don't have a good answer to that. That's why I invest in life insurance and real estate.
All right.
So thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas. Tomorrow and the next couple days, we'll do a couple more scenes from the videos to show how if we had George's problems and a little tweak to every dilemma he had, we could have definitely come out ahead. So Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching.